Hi everyone, this is what happened to me when I got government housing part 55. So it's unfortunate that I have had to sidetrack from telling you about my assaults and all the horrible things that happened to me to talk about all the other stuff like the behaviour of the police and how hard it was for me, excuse me, to get through to the people working in the justice system. But I've had to do that to tell you what it was like. And because this is my story, and it's probably a lot of other people's story too, I hate the fact that I had to tell you about all that other stuff because I never should have had to. The story should have been completely different. I should have been telling you that I was assaulted, rang the police, got a lawyer, went to court, got compensation, and got on with life. But that's not what I'm telling you. I'm telling you about the detail and the truth of what it's like to deal with the people in the justice system when you live in Melbourne, in Victoria, Australia. And you'll have to excuse me because, yes, I have still got a cold, believe it or not. Um, so the truth is that it was a lot worse than it seems. And there's details about my home life that I want to tell people, and there's also stuff that I can't tell anyone because it's too painful or too personal. But I want to get on with it so we can get to the court hearing, which is obviously what we've been leading up to this whole time. So on the 11th of the 3rd, 2017, my daughter was looking through a Crisco catalogue, excuse me, that we had at home. And I hated her looking at it because I had no money to spare, but and also I was in debt after paying all the expenses that were related to representing myself in court. But I was hopeful every day that my compensation hearing would come up and we'd be able to go on holiday again. And I'd be able to buy her things like I normally would. Excuse me. So she was reading through the Crisco catalogue and she found a Spider-Man toy. And she wanted me to buy it. And I didn't know that she liked Spider-Man at that stage. So I asked her why she wanted it, and she told me that she wanted to use the toy to shoot a spider web at the respondent to catch him so he couldn't do anything to us. And I felt so proud of her because she wanted to be my superhero. But of course, I also felt so sad that she had to feel like the one who had to take him on. And obviously, she was, excuse me, a child, and it wasn't her job. She was, she never should have been burdened with those thoughts, let alone having to come up with the idea of how to help me and how to help herself and how to resolve the situation. And I was also, obviously racking my brains basically every day about, how I would deal with it. Unlike the police, we didn't have handcuffs and we didn't have guns and we couldn't legally restrain the respondent to stop him from doing things to us. But I was spending all of my time and money trying to work out how I could stop him. And, excuse me, now I found out that my daughter was troubled with those thoughts too. And it was so painful to me, and it still is now. As a parent, it was my responsibility to protect my daughter, and I couldn't work out how to do that. On the 16th of the 3rd, 2017, I posted another letter to a federal MP asking for assistance, and I believe that was regarding the situation with docs. And it was also because I wasn't able to get a meeting with a state MP, um, which is what I wanted because I had been dealing with so many people and not getting anywhere. I felt like my situation was snowballing because no one would help me. And if I was able to get someone to help me, everything would be okay. Also, on that day, I received a letter from G, the person that I had met with at the Preston DHHS, and that letter said that docs would no longer be involved in my family's life, which was a relief. But the funny thing was that I still wanted help and I still needed help. And if they had been different towards me, I would have loved to get some more support in dealing with all the issues that I had in being a single parent and especially with dealing with the respondent. But given the behaviour of the people at Docs and their attitude and their willingness to use verbal violence against me and their willingness to believe and take seriously the most ridiculous and trivial reports about me, I felt that there was no way that I could ask them to help me. Also, on that same day, I attended a doctor for the medical condition that I was suffering, and I got some medication to help me with that. And I still didn't know what was causing that situation that I was in, and it was pretty scary. On the 17th of the 3rd, 2017, I rang the court to ask someone about my application for compensation. I asked them if I could speak to the media about my case, and they said that I could not contact the media while I had a case for compensation before VOCAT, that is the compensation court. So I was forced to wait. I was literally dying to have my case heard because I was dying to get away from Melbourne and all the violence that I'd suffered and all the bad memories that I had. I knew that the things that the respondent had done to me were so bad and so dramatic that the media would have been able to get a response from the public and that they would likely be able to air my story. Back then, I never thought about telling my own story, and for some reason, I thought it had to be done by the mainstream media. On the 19th of the 3rd, 2017, I saw that some paint had been thrown into my side yard. Excuse me. I knew it had been thrown from the balcony because there was paint splatter from the balcony down. So in other words, the paint had landed in my side yard and then splattered upwards. And splattered downwards on the way down, I think. Then on the 20th of the 3rd, 2017, I went out in the afternoon to collect my daughter from school, and I was filming the path that we took home, which was normal for me to do at that time. And the respondent drove his vehicle across the entrance to the block of units, so we couldn't get in. And obviously that scared both of us, and it was so infuriating that he was always asserting himself against us, and mostly that he just happened to be out and driving across our path at the exact time that I was getting my daughter home from school. So clearly that wasn't a coincidence, but when I tried to tell the police or people who worked in the courts that it wasn't a coincidence, they seemed to believe that it was plausible that someone could do that over and over again. And I knew that it was stalking and harassment, but they didn't agree. It wasn't just what he did, it was the fact that he had done all the other things like assault me and dump buckets of water on me. And when he blocked my ability to get into my home, it was like all of those things were happening again, all in one moment. I never found out what it was about me getting in and out of my home that he wanted to stop, but that was how I was treated, and it was so draining to deal with. And I wanted to comfort my daughter, and I wanted to get away, but I just didn't know how. So I'll play you the video now so you can see what happened, and then after the video, I'll have a bit more to say.
And what to do?
And what's that got to do with Gmail?
Because she's going to send us a mail.
Why didn't she send it today? Oh, quick. Quick.
I'm going on this way.
Alright. Get back here, Goldie. Goldie! Goldie! Hurry up. No, it's all right. We'll get across somehow. So I just wanted to address a few things before I get back into the video. So obviously, what I was doing there was that we firstly had to get away from him because he came out of nowhere and confronted us with a vehicle, which, you know, he'd done several times before. Also, I had to comfort my daughter and make sure she was safe, which is absurd, you know, because that's something that the police should have done 2 years ago, not comfort her, but make sure that she was safe. And then I had to check that he was not around the vehicle before I was able to cross the road. And then I had to enter the block of units, and then I had to get inside my home. So it was ridiculous. It was tedious, and it was cruel, and it was ridiculous, and it was really hard on both of us. But the other thing I wanted to say is that video was edited because when he got out of the car, I believe he looked straight at the camera. So I edited that out just to make sure that that shot wasn't in this video. But the original video was submitted to the court and to the respondent's lawyer, and I still have the original video. So I can obviously show that. But yeah, I mean, once again, that's a perfect example of how absurd my situation was, and the way that the duty failure of the police put me in a position where I was made to look bad, and I was made to do things that I didn't want to do, because the respondent was just basically having a field day doing what he wanted. And as I said before the video, I have no idea why he kept stopping me from getting into my home. I don't know why he didn't want me to get into my home. It was just bizarre. But anyway, so after we did manage to get past him and into the unit, he actually drove the vehicle straight into the car park, like virtually as soon as I shut the door. And obviously that's what he should have done in the first place. And I think that the fact that he drove in proves that there was no reason for him to be blocking my path in the first place. Not that I would believe that he was anyway, but obviously, you know, there are people who would want to come up with a legal argument against what I'm claiming. He was just basically being a bastard and asserting himself against me. And I think that's obvious in the video. The other thing that I should remind everyone of at this point is that I did still have an intervention order against him on that day, and throughout this whole ordeal. So he was breaching the intervention order when he parked across my path like that.